What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Philadelphia Flyers as this season has not gone the way that I think a lot of fans were hoping. Considering how last season went, I think a lot of people were kind of seeing the beginning of the season as, maybe this is a little bit of a facade, right? There's a Flyers team that's rebuilding, and it seemed like they put themselves in a position where they raised the expectations maybe a little too soon. They end up falling out of the playoffs, and now in this season, we see this team currently sitting dead last in the Metropolitan Division with a 4-8-1 record. A couple of heartbreaking losses for the Philadelphia Flyers. What is the contributing factor to the Flyers' really problems here? We're going to take a look at all of that here today. Now, looking at their schedule over the last couple of weeks here to start the season, it has not been kind to the Philadelphia Flyers. They started the season through the first 7 games of the season. They won their first game, and they ended up dropping 6 in a row after that. So right off the bat, the Flyers are already starting off way behind the 8 ball through the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. They're able to put together a win to end that streak, but then they're able to win 3 or 4 games, and then now they are back on a 2-game losing streak on this current road trip. They just played the Hurricanes. They have to play Tampa and Florida this weekend. This is going to be a really difficult week for the Philadelphia Flyers. And, looking through the rest of November and into early December, their schedule is very favorable. They have a lot of home games and a lot of home stretches here. There's an opportunity for the Flyers to really try to get back on track. And, it's going to take a little bit of work. Obviously, Philadelphia Flyers head coach John Tortorella hasn't been thrilled from what he's seen from his team so far. He talked about it all offseason, how the goaltending is going to be an issue for this team going into the year, and it has been a problem right off the bat here. And I would say is probably the contributing factor to why the Flyers are struggling so much to not only, get the puck in the net, but also keeping the puck out of the net, which has really been the concern. And we know how John Tortorella teams are, right? He likes to make it as easy as possible for his goaltenders, a lot of block shots, really limiting the team's opportunities, and kind of the quote that he's known for, your best offense is a really good defense. And that defense will contribute to the offense working. And that really hasn't been the case for the Flyers this season. I think another thing that you have to consider for the Flyers is their transition game last season was really good. And that's part of that defense being your best, contributing to your offense. They really haven't had that. It's been a couple of little things here and there, just getting the puck out of the zone. It's a little sloppy, a lot of turnovers in your own end, and those are not good, especially for a Flyers team right now that, let's be honest, doesn't have the most depth and the most skill right now. You can't afford to be having a ton of turnovers like that. It keeps guys hemmed in their own zone. It creates a lot of mismatches when you have to make line changes, guys overextending their shifts, and eventually leading to more penalties and things like that. And that's never a good thing when you're trying to win a hockey game. And that's kind of where everything's been going wrong for the Flyers is really partially the goaltending. And a huge thing I would say is that transition game just not being what we saw last year from the Flyers. They do have a couple of key injuries, though. Obviously, losing Cam York last week. That was a big loss. He's placed on the IR last week. Same thing for Ryan Poehling, who is the newest victim for the injury-bugged Philadelphia Flyers. He was placed there on Tuesday. And then, of course, Sam Ersson, who was probably the most important one there. Even more, I would say, than even Cam York at this point. He's traveling with the Flyers on this road trip, but there is no legitimate concrete answer yet from John Tortorella whether we're actually going to see Ersson back in between the pipes. We've seen a lot of Kolosov, which I would hope once Ersson comes back, we're going to see Kolosov get a little bit of time off. It's been a really it's been a rough stretch for everybody there in between the pipes for the Flyers, and you look at it one of two ways. Either there's a team that just hasn't been able to get it together, and that goaltending, once it gets going a little bit, they're going to be okay, or this is just not the year for the Flyers. And I hate to say it, they don't really have the skill to put themselves down a lot in the standings, because there are some legitimately good teams in the Metro this year. Kind of what we talked about. We expected the Devils, the Rangers, and the Hurricanes to be the top teams in this division, and that's kind of how things are playing out right now. And then you throw in the fact the Washington Capitals are playing as well as they are. Well, now that's 4 spots in the Metro. And then you still have teams that have been playing better than the Flyers. Pretty much everybody else. In the Islanders, the Blue Jackets, and the Penguins. So right now for the Flyers, they got to find a way, especially on this little road trip here before they come home, just build a little momentum. It's going to be difficult. You have two tough opponents here in the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. Tampa's going to be without Braden Point. You hope that's something that can maybe throw off the chemistry enough, and maybe the Flyers can muster a win there. The Florida Panthers have really turned it on the last 2 weeks. They had a little bit of a stumble out of the gate, but they've really come to life. So that's going to be a tough game. Like this is the NHL schedule. And for the Philadelphia Flyers, if you want to make the playoffs, if you want to have a good record, you got to beat the good hockey teams. And that's where the Flyers are at right now. Looking at the team's top producers, let's be a little bit more positive here. Travis Konecny is over a point per game. He's got 14 points in 13 games, 7 of those being goals. And then you've got Matvei Michkov. He's got 10 points on the season. He's been doing really well. There's obviously some growing pains for him as well. You could just tell, like, teams are definitely keying in on him to make sure he's getting the ride into the boards and, finishing checks on him and maybe playing a little bit of the mental game with him a little bit. And that's fine. Like, that's how this goes. And that's what's going to happen to rookies in the National Hockey League. And the way he's handled that so far is pretty good. But you could definitely tell his hockey IQ is out of this world, and unfortunately, I think it gets the best of him sometimes. I remember the Islanders with Barzal, his first 2 seasons with the Islanders, he was just so good with the puck to the point where the guys around him on his own team didn't know what he was going to do with the puck. And as much as that's a good thing that the other team doesn't know what you're doing with the puck, his own players didn't know what he was going to do. And I think Michkov's kind of in that spot right now for himself, and I think Tortorella's given him a lot of leash because he has to. He's getting almost 18 minutes of ice time a night, which is great. This is what the Flyers need. They need him to be contributing, and he's already got 4 power play goals this season. That's probably one of the biggest things that I've seen from him is he's a key contributor on the PP for the Philadelphia Flyers, and they're going to need a lot of that this season if they want any chance of getting back into this playoff race, any chance of making the playoffs. Now, obviously, the key thing we need to look at here before we close out tonight is the goaltending. Between Kolosov, Fedotov, and Urson, it's been a rough stretch, even for Urson. But he has played 9 games this season with a .900 save percentage, which isn't terrible, especially on a team like this Flyers team. Like, you can't really blame him for that. And again, now he's injured. I think that's obviously the more concerning thing than his numbers. But then you've got Fedotov, who is yet to record a win this season for the Flyers. He's 0-3, and then he's got an .821 save percentage, almost 5.5 goals given up per game. That's not good enough. And we know that the Flyers have, some situations here with Fedotov. It was a rough situation for him coming in last season for the Flyers, but that is really bad. That is really, really frustrating. And you could tell Tortorella made it well known that he was frustrated with the Flyers goaltending situation. And then, like I said, it doesn't get much better here for Kolosov because he is yet to record a win yet for the Flyers. He's got an .863 save percentage and a 3.92 goals against average. So not much better stats there for Kolosov. And the reality of it is, for the Philadelphia Flyers this season, it's been all about Sam Ersson. Sam Ersson is their guy, and if he's not in, it's going to probably be a pretty rough night for the Philadelphia Flyers. That's just the reality of the way things are going for this team. The key things looking at their special teams, their power play is actually right around league average, which is not bad, especially, a lot of that's contributing to the 4 goals already from Michkov on the power play. But the penalty kill has been really solid as well. Top 5 in the NHL at almost 89%. And the league average, just to put in perspective, is 79%. So definitely top 10 in that category. Really good. Again, John Tortorella teams, you got to have good defense. You got to have a good penalty kill. And that's one of the bright spots here for the Flyers. Despite everything that's been going wrong for this team, there is reasons to be positive. They are scoring more goals than they have in years past, especially under Tortorella. But they're also giving up a lot of goals, and that's the thing. Like we're gonna probably talk about this in my Penguins video in a minute. But the way that things have gone for the Flyers is notoriously been under Tortorella a team that doesn't give up a lot of goals, but also doesn't score a lot. And I think you're seeing that kind of blending right now of just, they're scoring goals now, but now they're giving up too many. And You could definitely say the same thing right now for the Pittsburgh Penguins down the road on down 80. Um, it's one of those things. It's just been a rough season for the Flyers so far. I hope Tortorella stays because I don't think he's the problem here. I just don't think they have good goaltending. I don't think they have enough depth, in all honesty. And when you have key injuries like Urson and York in the first, basically not even 2 months of the season, how much of that can you really put on Tortorella? So let me know what you guys think down below. What do you guys think the Flyers are going to do here? Guys, make sure to check out our latest merch here on the channel. We've got some Goal Line Hockey merch for the holiday season, so if you're interested in any of that, make sure to check the links down below. Also, join our Discord if you want to join in on the discussion here on our channel. And if you're interested in joining a fantasy hockey league, we will be setting that up as well. So check all the links down in the description if you're interested in any of those things. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you again next time.